A Zebra steel pen feels good the second you pick it up. These are tough pens that combine style, strength, and value. So, as you battle your way through the day, arm yourself with a tough Zebra steel pen. Now you've found Zen in your pen, and it's tough as steel.
Mike Ryan, if you did not know, is a Cleveland Browns fan because his abuelita shopped at the dollar store when he was a kid and brought home Cleveland Browns 99-cent plates. And so that was the legacy that his abuelita left him. And so he was just cursing before the break because Carson Wentz, the Browns, passed on him, and he is lamenting the passing on him. And you were saying that as a Jets fan, that happens to you all the time.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, it started with Marino. It just happened recently with Deshaun Watson. Yes, it's happened to me a number of times.
So who is the guy for Miami? The one guy, if you had to pick one guy, it doesn't have to be football because I know Randy Moss, you took John Avery, but it doesn't have to be football. In the history of South Florida sports, who's that guy?
Wow.
Is it Drew Brees? Like, who is it where you're like, oh, well, that we were so close we could have had that, and instead we passed on that. Who is that for Miami in the history? It could be all across sport.
It's going to be tough to beat Drew Brees. I don't know who went after Michael Beasley in that draft. When the Heat had the number 2 pick.
Wasn't that the draft with Kevin Love and Russell Westbrook?
Well, but wait a minute. That's not what I'm talking about because, right, couldn't the Heat have had Antetokounmpo? Or no? Were they not drafting high that year? I mean, because he was 15, right? So a lot of teams passed on him. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a guy that you had the shot to have.
Right.
Wentz is, the Browns, moved. They could have had Wentz. They could have had a franchise quarterback for 10 years.
Yep. Browns moved up to get, Eagles moved up to get him.
Yeah. I'm not talking about, the guy who slipped in the draft, although it could be that too. I'm talking about someone like Breeze where you're like, oh, wait a minute. If we had just taken that sliding door, we'd be totally different 10 years.
I don't have a good second place for Drew Brees right now. That's clear. That's a clear winner.
Because Randy Moss was a good one because all of us were watching that in real time, right? All of us. That was somebody who fell through on the draft, but he was there for the Dolphins, and Dolphin fans couldn't believe that he was still there.
Right.
Of course, Dolphin fans did the same thing with Brady Quinn.
Yes. They did. You're right.
Ted Ginn's still in the league.
Yep.
And
He's
Ted
played
Ginn,
for
right.
25 teams.
Playing well, though.
And Ted Ginn's not only still in the league, Ted Ginn has figured out how to play football better than everyone because he gets the checks. Didn't he have another 100-yard receiving day last weekend?
He sure did.
I mean, that's perfect.
I don't think he was touched.
But let me ask you this, though. This is the thing that makes Breeze hard to top. I believe that if Breeze had been here, Ted Ginn would also still be here.
So would Saban.
You know what I mean? So would Nick Saban.
Yes.
The whole thing is different.
Imagine. Wow.
The whole world. So is Saban.
It's amazing when you think about it.
College football would be better somehow.
That would have been how that one played out because I always wonder about that.
Does Matt Ryan count?
I mean, I guess it could, but Matt Ryan's a confusing one because you don't know if you also need to pair him with Julio Jones. This stuff becomes confusing for me. Like, the tipping point on this is for me is Tyrod Taylor. Like, okay, if I took Tyrod Taylor and I gave him to Belichick, how is that playing out differently? Because I know we all think that Tyrod Taylor is just okay, and even the Bills were like, we're not sure we want to do this with him. But Tyrod Taylor kind of does a lot. Can you imagine what would Tyrod Taylor even look like if he were with the Chiefs right now? Right now, do you think that the Chiefs would trade Andy? Do you think that Andy Reid would trade Alex Smith right now for Tyrod Taylor? Because I do.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I think he sees that as a push. Probably likes Alex Smith better. I don't necessarily disagree with you, but
you understand what I'm saying.
100%.
Because
yes.
Andy Reid seems to be more creative. Andy Reid seems to be more creative than any of them.
Right.
Even Belichick seems to be more creative and sort of taking his pieces and making them fit.
Right.
Like, where the hell did the Reid option come from? Like, that's not something that he's been doing a lot of. And then all of a sudden, there it is. I mean, a lot of teams are doing that.
I mean, he's great with quarterbacks. And Doug Peterson, who's now coaching the Eagles, who was with Andy Reid, is doing a great job with Carson Wentz.
Wait a minute. Does the audience think, this is what I'm talking about when I'm saying I don't know how to do these measurements. Does the audience think that Alex Smith is better than Tyrod Taylor? Because I don't.
Oh, I think the audience thinks that, yes.
Okay, I think Alex Smith has gotten a lot of aid in creative offenses as Buffalo keeps trying to jam Tyrod Taylor into yet another system.
Tyrod Taylor's just never really been surrounded by talent.
By anything.
Yeah. I still go Alex Smith there. Just because on these primetime games, he looks like the best quarterback in the league right now.
He really does.
I know, but what I'm saying is now put Taylor. No, I know what you're seeing now. What I'm saying specifically is put Taylor with those guys in that offense. Give him. Alex Smith looks different this year because of those guys. Alex Smith's not different.
I would say that you were asking the question, where did the read option come from? Well, it came from Alex Smith and the Utah Utes. And now he's in a system that's closer to that college skill set, and he's playing like the player that was worthy of a number one pick.
Would you mind, what time's is Cian coming on today? Can you just text Cian and ask him that question? I'd be curious what he thinks of that. Who would be better in the Chiefs system?
It's a great question.
I'm not asking you, is Alex Smith better than Tyrod Taylor? I'm saying specifically what the Chiefs are doing with all of those skill guys. I think Tyrod Taylor adds another dimension that he'd be running out of the things that Smith is taking sacks on, and he'd also not be turning the ball over because he doesn't turn the ball over.
Can't you kind of say this? Now, Alex Smith can move a little bit and get out of the pocket and run.
No, but he likes to take sacks.
Of course he does, yes. But can't you say the same thing about Matt Ryan? Like maybe Tyrod Taylor in that offense with those weapons, maybe it looks a little bit better or no?
Yeah, but I'm talking right now specifically because of the change I've seen in the Chiefs and Alex Smith. Because of,
sure.
I've seen Alex Smith look like a little bit different a quarterback this year, and you can't say he's a different quarterback. He's been the same quarterback for the last 6 years. The only difference between this Alex Smith and previous Alex Smiths is the help that he has.
Yeah, Macklin was reputed to be a guy that could go downfield, and for whatever reason they just didn't, and now Alex Smith is, I guess because he trusts Hill more, trusts his speed more. It's not like Macklin wasn't a speed guy. I'm not really sure what clicked there, but Alex Smith looks like a different quarterback. What's a more random way to start a show? Us starting the national show yesterday with Kansas college football, or starting the local hour today with Tyrod Taylor v. Alex Smith?
It's a good question, but in Dan's defense, it was Miami specific, like the guy that got away. That hurt you the most, right?
Alex
the guy
Smith,
you could have had that you didn't take.
Alex Smith kind of got away, too. He was in a hotel room here for 2 days, right, waiting for a call and left.
Yeah. Peyton Manning, too, right?
Well, we pushed him away.
I mean, he landed a plane here.
Deep Pasquale was flying a helicopter.
Yeah.
But this is the thing I'm talking about. If Alex Smith had signed here instead of there, Andy Reid has really helped Alex Smith. I don't think he ends up looking even as good. I think that if he'd been here, he would have been swallowed.
Probably, yeah. Maybe out of the league.
Man, we're too tough on
Mike, what do you do with this? What do you do with Bills players leave Buffalo and everyone else can use them well? What do you do with that?
I don't know what to do with what I'm seeing from Chris Hogan. Sammy Watkins appears to be the same guy.
No, but I'm not talking about Chris Hogan. I'm talking about the guy in San Francisco. What, the Goodwin? Talking about.
We only see the big plays. That guy disappears for games on end, which is what he did. He's doing what he did in Buffalo.
I know, but
they got LaShawn McCoy and revived his career a bit.
He plays for the 49ers.
Yeah,
so.
He does.
No, they've got a good rushing attack. The Bills have been rushing the ball better than anybody the last, I think, 3 years.
I actually really like Tyrod Taylor. I thought his agent did him wrong by agreeing to this pay cut. It was bizarre to me because he seemed to be, if not their best player, their second best player behind Shady McCoy. I don't think there's much of a difference between him and Alex Smith to lead a sports show with this debate.
Oh, but wait a minute.
So for that reason, I am out.
Wait a minute. I want to ask you.
You were stepping out of the conversation.
Hold on a second. What did you want to talk Heat basketball? Since when do we care about the constructs of whether we're on the local hour or the national hour, or we're talking about Kansas football or what?
Well, listen, the Kansas football that was a mistake. That's going to take a while for all of us to get over.
That's where we started.
That's
football Monday.
Me. It's going to haunt me for a while.
You guys think that was a bad choice yesterday?
It took us an hour to dig ourselves out of it.
No, wait a minute. No, wait a minute.
Are we on in Kansas?
No, wait a minute. Wait.
No. We're on in St. Louis.
No.
Close enough.
No, what happened yesterday, hold on a second, because I've noticed this. Mike's a perfectionist. We've, outside of Stugotz, we've got a lot of perfectionism going on around here.
Whoa.
And Mike's a perfectionist, and I will tell you, and I believe the shipping container filled with frightened refugees will agree with me on Mike's only child syndrome in this regard. Mike bleeped up a couple of things in the first hour, and therefore the first hour could not have been good.
It's a bad show.
Bad hour or bad show?
It's a bad show.
All right. Yeah. And I feel like some of that was on me. My apologies, Mike. I'll try to do better moving forward here.
Mike, there is nothing that we could do. We could have had like an epically great show, and if you'd made those two mistakes, that would have been a bad hour.
Yeah, we could get a guest list that consists of Tom Cruise, the President of the United States, Aaron Rodgers, and I'm bumming because sound from the internet, an ad on CBSSports.com.
I'm telling you, the first hour of yesterday's show was good. Admittedly, at the end of the first hour, that was not good.
No, it's not good.
No,
we had 7 sounds that we wanted to get to.
It was not our finest moment.
We got to 0 of the sounds. And we petered out against a hard network out. It was a bad show. Bad show, guys.
See, that was a bad
show.
I'm telling you, this happens a lot, where Dan and I think it was a good show, and Mike does not think it was a good show.
One of the worst shows ever.
No, but here's the thing, Now, this is why Stugotz makes it difficult. And he's a terrible ally to have on this. Because he's afflicted, we've diagnosed him clinically here on the radio with Dunning-Kruger. He always thinks he's had a good show, and he always thinks we've had a good show, no matter how bad it is. He swaggers out of here. He walks out of here like George Jefferson or Vince McMahon. That's more modern, I guess. Conor McGregor.
Yep.
George Jefferson. What did I do there?
I don't know.
You know how they say all the great quarterbacks have a short memory?
Yeah.
Stugotz is akin to a great quarterback.
I think we're great at what we do. I do. I think our worst show is better than most people's best show.
That's what I'm talking about. See, that's the attitude. And God bless him. We should all have that attitude about everything we do in life. We don't hate each other.
What are you saying?
No, but I'm saying that's
you guys all hate me.
No, I'm saying if everyone were like you, if it were being John Malkovich, if it was being John Wiener.
Yeah.
If everybody were you, those people would all hate each other because all of those people would want what the other person had.
I just walk into this every day realizing we're doing 4 hours of live radio and some mistakes are going to happen, and I'm cool with that. I let them roll right off my back, and we just move forward and try to make the next segment better. That's just my attitude on things.
And that is a great attitude. Can you get the Ken Arnold sound, please? Because you weren't always like this.
No, I was not.
You are absolutely right. That is the attitude to have, and it is the way that you have evolved on the primitive chart to a place that's wonderful and spiritual in nature.
Right.
You've arrived at a place where you can tolerate your mistakes and everyone's.
But you're going to go back to a very stressful time in my life where, I just had 2 twin girls. We were starting the radio station. Yes, you are right. I was not always
I'm not saying here that you're a hypocrite or inconsistent. I'm marveling at your growth. This is the one place where Stugotz has actually evolved.
Yes.
He used to be somebody who was wildly intolerant of mistakes, especially those that happen on air, like, for example, our good friend Ken Arnold.
Before we break, want to bring on my good buddy Ken Arnold, Everglades Capital Management, the Hersch Arnold team. Kenny, how you doing today? Kenny. Waiting for Ken, trying to hook him up here. Ken, you with us? We'll try again. You guys got him? No. We'll take a quick time out. You guys figure it out. Goodbye.
You can always count on Bud Light, just like you can always count on Tailgate Terry. Without Tailgate Terry, you wouldn't have cold Bud Lights and 7-layer dip at every pregame. That's 56 layers per season. Just the right amount if you ask Terry. Tailgate Terry is famous among friends. He deserves a Bud Light. Enjoy responsibly. Bud Light Beer, 80 St. Louis, Missouri.
Don Batard.
I've made a vow to not correct Stugotz all show today on any mistakes, not point out any of his mistakes as part of a continued quest to do better and be better.
Stugotz.
Yep, and I have vowed to try and be 1% less worse than I normally am. That's what you asked, and that's what I'm going to try to do. 1%. I'm trying here, man. I am.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on the ticket.
So, Mike, how did you feel about that Heat game last night? No Whiteside. They beat up Atlanta. They get a big lead. They're fun to watch when it comes to scoring.
Hawks are a bad team, man.
Yeah, they are bad. They got bad fast. It makes you appreciate seeing the Hawks get that bad without ever getting really good. I mean, they had the one season where they won a bunch of games in the regular season. But it's really hard to stay in the place where the Heat have stayed even last year, where they don't make the playoffs, but they do something that's interesting. They've been relevant all but 1 year that Pat Riley's been here, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Or maybe 2 years. They've been relevant, and it's just hard to stay there as Atlanta is showing.
Naturally, many would argue they were not relevant last year, despite the interesting win streak. But they were interesting for us down here, and I think that's what's most important. How many years have you been interesting? And they've been interesting pretty much consistently, even without the big three.
Well, but I would say last year was interesting. Last year was different than the average team that goes 500 and just vanishes. The Heat gave you something last year that if you were paying attention to basketball, never mind whether they were a regional team all year, if you were paying attention to basketball, that was a team that you legitimately thought would have done something possibly in the playoffs if it had gotten there because of how they played the second half of the season. So it wasn't like your average Milwaukee team that goes into the playoff at 41-41 and you know they're not going to do anything. There were plenty of people who thought if the Heat got into the playoffs, they could knock off the 1 seed.
They've played some really bad basketball teams to start this season. Wednesday will be a nice measuring stick against the Spurs.
Is Kawhi playing in that game?
Not entirely sure.
No.
Is Orlando good? Or is Orlando going to be surprising? Because Orlando beat up Miami, and then Orlando beat up Cleveland in Cleveland in what is probably the most surprising result of the season so far.
It's still early, but so far they've certainly been surprising. I didn't think they'd be that good. I thought they were going to be one of the worst teams in the league.
Right, but and maybe they will be, but do they have anything? Like, what changes did Orlando make? Because
Fournier, they got Jonathan Simmons, which is an underrated pickup because many people don't know his name. San Antonio had to get rid of him because of their cap situation. It's a really good player they let go.
The Russians played well, too. I mean, really well. 41 against Brooklyn, 23 against Cleveland.
He's Swiss.
Oh.
So Cian Fahey with us. He's our football expert, and we were asking the question. I started the show here, so we bother him in Ireland with it. I was saying I was having trouble sort of measuring what Tyrod Taylor is because I feel like everyone and everything in Buffalo has betrayed him. So, kid, if I took Tyrod Taylor and put him in Kansas City's system, just didn't do anything, if I let me put it this way. Do you think Andy Reid would trade Alex Smith for Tyrod Taylor? Yes or no?
No, just because NFL coaches generally stick with what they have. But if you're talking like talent and fit, it's actually, I'm kind of fascinated how you got to pick Alex Smith, because Tyrod and Alex Smith are basically the same player, except Alex Smith is slightly better throwing over the middle of the field and Tyrod's more willing to attack tight windows downfield. But as players, they're very similar. They both run into sacks. They're both athletic. They're both accurate deep passers when they throw deep. Alex obviously doesn't always throw deep. But yeah, the Buffalo situation is completely different to the Kansas City situation. You've got nothing in Buffalo and you've got everything in Kansas City, basically.
What do you think Tyrod Taylor would be if I had just given him the last 8 years or 6 years of Belichick? If he had been, instead of Tom Brady, if Tyrod Taylor had been the Patriots quarterback?
Well, that's kind of a cheat code, really, because you give anyone to Belichick and he gets the most out of them. It would be very similar to what Andy Reid is doing in Kansas City right now, because Belichick also understands how to build an offense. Like, if you want to get into the greater details of this, the Kansas City offense is, everything they do is built off of the run and built off of misdirection runs. And what that means is they incorporate the quarterback into the design of their running plays, similar to the Carolina Panthers with Cam Newton. So Alex Smith is always involved in the running game, and that makes the running game better. It makes Kareem Hunt's job easier. It makes the offensive line's job easier. And then when he's throwing the ball, it's always distorted coverages he's throwing into. He's got favourable matchups pushing the ball downfield. Similar with Carson Wentz last night, where they're constantly using play action and read pass options. And if Belichick had Tyrod Taylor, he would be running a completely different offense to the one he runs now. He'd be running that type of Alex Smith offense, that type of Andy Reid offense, where it's constantly misdirection. It's constantly pulling the defensive line left and right, so the offensive line doesn't have to be as good in pass protection. And you would be using Taylor's feet to create deep passing plays and to create actual running plays. I think like Taylor is probably the most underrated quarterback in the league right now, because he's got receivers who can't catch the ball, and he's got an offensive line that's good at run blocking but not very good at pass blocking.
This stuff's so hard to do. I want to go back to Tyrod Taylor and Alex Smith for a second, because 2 years ago the Chiefs were 11-5. That was before Tyreek Hill, before Kareem Hunt. Are you telling me if Tyrod Taylor's the quarterback for the Chiefs that season, they're going 11-5?
You're still doing wins and losses on this? This is how you're still measuring
because they had listen, they didn't have any success in the playoffs, but they had plenty of good years when Alex Smith didn't have anyone surrounding him, much the way Tyrod Taylor has no one surrounding him in Buffalo.
They also had Justin Houston, Tamba Hali, Dontari Poe, Eric Berry. They had so many guys at the peak of their play on the defensive side at that time. Funnily enough, it was a game in Buffalo where I believe Alex Smith completed like 8 passes or something and threw for less than 100 yards, and his defense scored 3 touchdowns and they won that game. And that was just kind of a consistent thing with the Chiefs. This is what's happening. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm hating on him or anything, but it's just because it's fresh in my mind from last night. Carson Wentz was brilliant last night. He was great last night. But in general, this year, the Eagles aren't winning because of Carson Wentz. They're winning because they've got a great offensive line, they've got good skill position players, and they've a dominant defense. And that's largely what Kansas City has been for the last 6-7 years or whatever, as long as Andy Reid has been there.
Can you tell us what you're seeing on the Dolphins here over the last couple of games? What are you seeing? Give us the interesting stuff you've got on the Dolphins.
Well, it's pretty much going as expected. Devontae Parker being injured kind of changed the setup of the offense a little bit, because Deontay Crew obviously isn't Devontae Parker, and I think it changed the approach more than the quality. Jarvis Landry had a pretty good game last week, and obviously I'm not someone who's considered to be high on Jarvis Landry, but he made some plays with Matt Moore. And I know the big question mark is going to be, is Matt Moore better than Jay Cutler? Is one guy's style better than the other? I think you're going to have the same situation that you've always had with Matt Moore, where he comes in, he stabilizes it for a little bit, and then you kind of realise after a while that the flaws are still really there. It's same with Cody Kessler in Cleveland.
That's what Stugotz said yesterday. Stugotz said that was Stugotz's analysis yesterday, is that this is what Matt Moore does. It's a flame across the sky, and then it's the poop emoji.
But there's a specific reason for it. It's that Matt Moore will always... it's like Kirk Cousins last night, actually. He will always take the safest option, but the safest option isn't always the best option. He will take 4 and 5 yards on 3rd and 10. When he comes in first, he seems to be that little bit more aggressive. So I don't know if it's that he kind of regresses, or he just goes back into his shell or whatever. But yeah, Stugotz got one right.
What did you see from Ndamukong Suh? Like, what are you seeing? Because I keep complaining that they're wasting the years of healthy Ndamukong Suh.
I actually find the Dolphins' defense to be fascinating, and the reason is you've got Cameron Wake, you've got Jordan Phillips, you've got Ndamukong Suh, you've got all these dominant defensive linemen, but then you've got a bunch of linebackers who can't run. You've got a secondary that's kind of all over the place. You saw one of the Jets' touchdowns last week was a blown coverage where Rashad Jones came down and the cornerback went upfield with him. And the thing about that is it's really frustrating to watch defensive linemen, defensive tackles specifically, because a defensive tackle's job is to make the linebackers look good, to make the linebackers better. And when Suh is taking up a double team and blowing up running lanes and just being a dominant force, he generally needs a linebacker to come and take advantage of the work that he's doing, and that's when you notice how good Suh is. But because you've got Kiko Alonso, who to me is one of the most overrated players in the league right now, you've got Lawrence Timmons, who's good but he's old, and you're kind of relying. You lost the rookie linebacker, was it Raekwon McMillan, before the year, and it's limited the positive plays that you see with Suh. Suh is a dominant player. Suh is a great player, and he has been a great player throughout his whole career. But individual defensive players can only do so much. Even a guy like Aaron Donald, even a guy like JJ Watt, they're going to disrupt. They're going to blow things up. They're going to create opportunities for everyone around them, but they need guys around them to be better.
Cian, how's the Dolphins' offensive line playing? Why aren't they running the ball more? How are they playing?
Well, Laramie Tunsil's moved to left tackle, and I don't think he's really panning out. But he's still young. He's still got time to get better. It's that you've got like this limited in impact players. Like the right tackle, Jawan James, isn't an impact player. He's not going to create running lanes blocking. Jawan Bushrod, obviously at right guard, isn't going to do that either. You just don't have these guys who can make impact plays. And then you see Adam Gase's whole passing game is built on short passing and being very conservative, and it lets the defense kind of shut down a little bit, close in and focus on the run. Ajayi, to me, is still a fantastic player, but he's just not getting those opportunities. They can't move bodies off the line. They don't have athletes on the offensive line where you don't have a guy like Lane Johnson who can just grab someone and throw him inside and then run behind him.
What you're saying is infuriating. They've got so many first-round picks on that offensive line. Yep. Like, what you're saying is infuriating.
Well, actually, one of the fascinating things, I don't think I can say his name, but he's a former NFL scout, and I had a brilliant conversation with him a couple of years ago where he talked to me about, I think it was the Steelers' offensive line at the time, where they had a bunch of first-round picks. They had spent a lot on it, and it wasn't working. And the thing he said to me, it doesn't really matter who you have talent-wise individually. If the most important piece of an offensive line is the offensive line coach, and they've got the ex-Titans head coach, Mike Munchak, I think is his name, where he's now the Steelers' offensive line coach, and since he's been there, their offensive line has been one of the best in the league. And I know the Dolphins' offensive line coach is not exactly known for
what's wrong with our offensive line coach. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'll leave the jokes on that one to you.
All right.
The interesting thing is, like a guy like Mike Pouncey obviously is.
You're making me angrier. They were paying that dude $2 and $3 million a year. That's why he could afford all that blow. It's infuriating. What you're saying is infuriating. I want to fight you.
Why are you taking it out on Cian?
Because he's making me face an uncomfortable truth. What the hell, man? He's telling you right here. Listen to what he just said. He just said, yeah, you put anyone with Belichick, they'll be good. He'll change the whole offense if it's Taylor. He'll go away from the Brady offense. He'll make it Tyrod Taylor. What do the Dolphins do? Blow. That's what the Dolphins do.
Yep.
That's both ways.
But
you shut up.
Zebra steel pins are forged from grit. Like crafted swords from ages past, a Zebra steel pin feels good the second you pick it up. As you battle your way through the day, sitting at a desk or playing in the dirt, arm yourself with a tough Zebra steel pin. It's as reliable as a sunrise, because after all, a day without sunshine is like night. Pick up your Zebra steel pins at Amazon and other fine retailers. Now you've found Zen in your pin, and it's tough as steel.
Dan Le Batard.
God, what a game! Definitively know who's better.
Wait a minute, what's that music?
I'm not sure.
It's happy music.
It's a happy piano. Like, what just happened back there?
Someone fire off a spot or something?
Stugotz.
Wait, hang on. I got another browser open. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's an ad for cookies. I gotta get is there Mozilla? Firefox. Deny pop-up block.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on the ticket.
Mike Ryan was saying it was waning last night at the AAA, Eric. Waning.
It was waning.
Wayne Ellington finally started hitting some threes. We've waited so long. What had it been? A couple of games where he's no fun when he's not hitting them.
Oh, but when he hits them, man, it is so pretty to watch.
It's waning, Eric. So I want to ask you guys a couple of questions here. We'll get to Dwayne Wade asking to come off the bench in Cleveland in a second. That's amazing.
Why'd you do air quotes when you said asking?
Please.
Well, but if you're a hater, that went south quick. If Cleveland fans thought that they were getting the old Dwayne Wade instead of an old Dwayne Wade.
That's funny.
I mean, it didn't take very long for that to combust. Yeah, coach, I need to go to the bench. We know that he's got some self-awareness issues when it comes to how he ages.
Right.
For him to throw up his hand and say, I'll go to the bench 3 games in.
Yeah. I don't think he threw up his hand and volunteered to go to the bench. I think Tyronn Lue said, you're going to the bench, and he said, I'll give you the opportunity to make it seem like you asked me.
No.
I think that's the way it went down.
No.
I think that's my opinion,
Hold on, and you will change your opinion.
All right.
LeBron told Ty Lue, get him out of here. And Ty Lue relayed that message.
My opinion's been changed. I like that better. It's a great take.
I mean,
that is a great take.
But that's what Ty Lue exists for. Ty Lue is LeBron's administrative assistant.
Pretty much.
But we'll get to that in a second. I want to go back a second, and I want to ask you and the audience this question. When Cian Fahey comes on, and many people are just barking, he doesn't know what he's talking about. How can you possibly have that assessment? I'm serious about this. I'd like to understand it. Because he is more informed. This does not mean that he cannot be wrong. This does not mean that his opinions cannot be wrong on the players that he's watching. But I can assure you, listener, texter, he knows more than you do. Not comma, period.
Yep.
So what's happening there that you would hear something that you disagree with and you would dismiss him as someone who doesn't know anything? You just want people to reaffirm your beliefs? Like that's the nature of fandom? I felt like we had weeded those people out here.
I think it's just people's nature, Dan. If someone says something about anything that you disagree with, they're going to voice the other side of it.
I understand. But for example, you know how entrenched I've been in my position on football is less fun to watch, okay? And I was talking to Mina Kimes about this yesterday off air.
Okay.
And she gave me an assortment of facts that were like, okay, I hope you say that on the air Wednesday because you are going to alter the way people view my argument. You have a winning argument. I do not have a winning argument because you're coming to this argument with facts. I'm coming with, I don't like the way this looks. This doesn't feel the way that it used to feel. She was coming with facts on scoring. She was coming with facts on how many quarterbacks are actually getting injured. She had more information than I do on what my opinion was. And so I received that information. I'm like, okay, I must be wrong because your facts are saying something different than my eyes are saying. And so I ask you, when Cian Fahey comes on here and you know him to be more informed than you, and he's giving you facts around what he's watching, not just subjective stuff, is it just comfortable for you to dismiss him because he's got an alternate opinion? Or would you like your mind opened on what it is that you're watching? Do you want to just reaffirm your beliefs? Or
I don't think people want their minds to open up at all. I mean, they don't. I mean, he came on, he shredded Alex Smith, who's having an MVP-type season. You're doing the same thing. It's like Tyrod Taylor would do the same thing in that offense.
But wait a minute.
No, but people think Alex Smith, they're watching Alex Smith.
No, but why is that shredding him? Why is that shredding him? What I'm saying is you're underestimating Tyrod Taylor. This is not an affront to Alex Smith. Why does it have to be that? I wasn't trying to reaffirm my opinion on Alex Smith. I was wanting to explore a conversational topic with you on whether or not Tyrod Taylor, if he had, or more to the point, I was sort of talking to you about how I don't understand how to do the measurements on some of these things. Care to find out? Let's go talk to somebody who does know how to do some of these measurements, because I don't know how to untangle how Buffalo's players seem to be better when they leave Buffalo than they were when they're in Buffalo. And it is what is so infuriating about what it is that Cian was saying about the Dolphin offensive line. How often do you hear me say about anything in sports, not society, that's infuriating? That the Dolphins for 10 years have had so much mismanagement that they keep getting first rounders on the offensive line. And he's telling you those guys aren't special. Not any of them. He's telling you maybe Tunsil will be, not yet. He's telling you Juwan, maybe eventually, not, and probably not eventually.
Right.
And he didn't even mention Pouncey. They're not getting any push with all those first rounders. And that's at least in part because everything around this organization for the last 10 years has been a cluster bleep.
Sure. Dan, it's hard. I've tried to explain this to you many times over the years. So I'll try again. You're 4-2. The Dolphins are 4-2, and they're coming off a very exciting win. And people just want to enjoy that and don't want their team picked apart. They want their team picked apart when they're not playing well, when they're not 4-2, when they're 2-4.
Okay, but
I think people realize what Cian's saying. I think people are also frustrated by the offensive line, but right now they're 4-2.
I know they're 4-2, but okay, Mike, do you think that's what it is? Do you think
there's some feel good down here, and people don't want people taking away their feel good?
Okay,
they just don't.
But I would be saying the same thing if they were 2-4 or 3-3.
I know you would. I'm just telling you how fans who are emotionally attached to this team.
So, but wait a minute. But if I go down this path with you, hey, 4-2 Dolphin fan, you are at your most hopeful and feel good. You think your team is winning the championship? Answer's going to be no. It's not going to be, maybe if a lot of things bounce. It's going to be no. I don't think my team's winning the championship. So, I don't care that they're 4-2. That's not the measurement for me.
Right.
The measurement is all the other things that I'm seeing. And if they were 2-4 and I had the same measurement, I mean, they're a very average football team.
But 4-2 is not the measurement for you, because this is what we do for a living. For the fan who is going to work and working 8-9 hours a day, that's the measurement. They're not going to sit there and look at the. Oh no,
I think you're underestimating how discerning the fans are.
I'm not saying all fans. I'm saying a majority of fans are not. They just look at 4-2. I went to that game on Sunday and it felt good. I don't
think if you're listening to this show, that's how you think. I really don't. If you've been invested in this show for a long time, I don't think that's how you think.
I think you can think that and just have that challenge. I also think foresight for a fan is overrated. I like to be reactionary to what I see. Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I'll complain about all that when their season ends.
Okay, but that's not what I was talking about. I was talking about Cian Fahey, who's got no investment in any of this, giving you facts mixed with his scouting, mixed with his data, mixed with his opinions. Why would you say to that person, you don't know what you're talking about, when that's a person that clearly knows more than anyone who's listening in our audience?
Oh, Cian? It's because he says Tros.
Is that what it is?
Yep.
Yeah, you can't watch football.
Don't overthink this. I mean, that's it, right? No reason to discuss this any further. Mike just identified the problem.
Okay. Very good. We can go back to talking about Dwayne Wade. Is that it? All right. I did overthink it. I evidently didn't need to chew it down that much. That's all it is. He sounds like a leprechaun. All right. Very good. Let's move on. I'm not going to get my football wisdom from a leprechaun. The leprechaun doesn't know what he's talking about. Okay. So here's the quote from Dwayne Wade.
All right.
All right. I learned.
Moved on.
I learned something today. So here is Dwayne Wade. The quote that Stugotz thinks is funny. Quote, I just decided earlier than later just to get to the unit where I'd be more comfortable in and can probably be better with this team and that lineup. Why wait? 3 games in, why wait? Wanted to get in there with those guys. Now, I would say that by itself, absent emotion, you look at that, and if all of that is true, that is a pretty selfless, self-aware gesture from Dwayne Wade.
If it's true.
But
big if.
None of you believe it's true, do you?
If it's true, I'm even more bummed out because it took him 3 games to become self-aware. I thought one of the main sticking points in him not returning here and picking Cleveland over the Heat was he would have to come off the bench here. Now, I understand, considering all that he's done, it's a harder move. Cleveland's a fresh start and all, but this is kind of a bummer. I don't think anybody saw it going this way.
This fast?
Yeah.
So, do you enjoy it?
No, he's one of my favorite. Well,
No, I enjoy it.
I'm
Mike.
conflicted. I told you on the front end, I'm going to be a pendulum swinging wildly when it comes to this Dwayne Wade thing.
All right, well, tell me the truth
now.
on you. When you saw the box score, you saw a couple of Dwayne Wade box scores, and it was 2 for 9. Threes across the board. 3 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists.
Is it weird that I say I felt all the emotions? I'm sad for him, but also serves you right.
Sad for him.
All right, hold on a second.
Sad for him.
Are all those
living
emotions?
quite the charmed life. I'm not feeling sad for Dwayne Wade.
Get Billy in on this.
Please.
He's going to be a hell of a lot more entertaining because he's all in on one.
All right, well, hold
This
on a
is
second.
so great, Dan.
Sad
This is
for him.
the best. I can't wait for him to say, I want to come back to have a final season with the Heat. I'm like, why don't we do a one-day contract, Dwayne? We don't really need you for a year. Just do a one-day contract. Maybe we'll do something with your jersey. Maybe something. But one-day contract.
How have you experienced all of these box scores specifically? When you or have you been watching the game?
Yeah, I'm watching Cavs games and Dwayne Wade do nothing, please. I have better ways to waste my time, Dan.
Okay. So did you? So you open up the box score and you see 2 for 9.
I don't need to open up the box score. I know what it's going to be. I don't need to see that he did it. I know what's going to happen. He's going to do nothing all year. Nothing. And they're going to fight. This is going to affect their friendship.
Whoa.
You know, they say you shouldn't work with friends and family. They shouldn't have done this because this is putting LeBron in a really awkward spot.
They already worked together.
I know, when they were good. But
Right.
now it's kind of like,
No, he's got a point on that one. LeBron's not so interested at this point carrying Dwayne Wade's butt around.
Do you think LeBron's had any sort of private conversations with his wife, with a really close friend not named Dwayne Wade, saying, I can't believe how old and slow this guy is?
Yeah.
Like maybe Maverick, someone. He's had to have
Well,
that conversation.
I think
with
what LeBron probably figures he can make all of those guys good through the through his sheer ability of getting them open shots. But, I mean, yeah, he's having trouble cutting to the rim and getting points with LeBron James as his teammate. It's not,
Really,
not good.
Really, when you think about it, it is actually the smart basketball move, right? J.R. Smith, with the way the NBA is being played right now, J.R. Smith hitting threes is probably a better option, and Dwayne Wade playing with the second team against other teams' second teams is probably a better option for the Cavs.
I know, but I can't believe it took us 3 games to get here, and that Dwayne is saying already, this is my choice. I'm going to the bench. Now, you can say it's covering up pride. I do think that team coaches itself. Like, I think they've got I think Lou does things the way Pete Carroll does, where it's sort of a community decisions, and he's just the guy who goes out there and takes the bullets for everybody. But who feels bad for Dwayne Wade, though? Because Mike was saying, are those feelings allowed to coexist?
Yeah, man, I wanted him to go out like Duncan. I didn't want him to go out like Joe Namath. This is a bummer. And I still think he'll turn it around.
Do you?
He'll have a moment or two.
Well, where do you draw the
He'll
line?
have a moment in the playoffs.
Where do you draw the line? You don't want to see Dwayne
won't-
Wade win a championship in a Cavs jersey, do you?
Honestly, I don't like the Warriors at all. I've softened on that. I think it would be better. This championship would be, if the Cavs were to win it, I would handle it a lot better than I handled the first one. I don't like the Warriors at all.
You look sad just talking about it.
I am, man. My heart bleeds for Dwayne. But also, I'm so happy this is happening. It's weird. It's bizarre.
Yeah, get your emotions in check.
What is happening with you? My heart bleeds for Dwayne Wade. Like, what the hell, man? Did you see who came out and publicly said she was eating his